You told us yesterday to put this number 2 in our pocket and then say later, but then we never used it.
I did.
I put it in my pocket and then I had to throw it away. I'm serious.
So yesterday, folks, we were here and you had just discovered that elasticity is not linear, or any elasticity is not constant along a linear curve, and it confounded many of you. So let's do the math. Change in price here is how much? $10. Change in quantity is 20 divided by 10 is?
2.
Actually, sorry, change in. So 20 over 10 in the quantity, over the midpoint. 20 divided by 10 is?
It's 10 over 20.
10 over 20, sorry.
We know it's
Thank
10.
you. Thank you. Okay. The issue in creating these different values here is that the dollar amount, this is always, the change in quantity is constant, but the dollar amount, the midpoint changes. It's always a $10 change, but up here you're dividing by 25, here you're dividing by 15 as your midpoint, and here you're dividing by 5 as your midpoint. So that's why the elasticity changes. And what that tells you is, which one of these is more elastic, 5 or 0.2? 5 is more elastic. What that tells you is, as at higher prices, people's price elasticity of demand is more flexible. At lower prices, it is less flexible. It's almost completely inflexible, right? By the way, I challenged you to tell me what has perfect elasticity of demand. Did anybody go home and look it up? Uh-huh. Yeah, you can't find anything. What would you buy infinite quantities of at a set price? This doesn't, it's theoretical. I do not know why that is there. All right, so now back to our scenario. Back to our scenario. We're talking about raising your price from $200 to $250 per website. Is your revenue going to go up or is it going to go down? How many of you think it's going to go up? How many of you think your revenue will increase? A few. Just a few, less than a handful. How many of you think your revenue will decrease? How many of you are utter cowards?
How many there's
You know how many you sold already.
No, but if you raise the price.
Oh, Jared.
Yes.
Jared, who actually is a small business owner. Jared, how long have you owned your lawn care business?
I started it this summer.
Okay. So your prices have been constant? You always charge the same amount to mow lawn?
What's different for customers?
Different per customer, depending on the size of the yard and what services they demand?
That happens, I started too low, because I wanted to get into the market first.
Okay.
Oh, you are sneaky.
So did you have a demand curve to use to determine how much you should raise your prices to determine if revenue would increase or fall? No? Didn't have a demand curve. So, take a guess here. Do you think it's going to go up or go down? Let's see thumbs. Oh, Austin's going in the middle. He thinks it's going to stay the same.
Maybe he just doesn't know.
Oh, and Q calls him out. That's the coward's answer, Austin.
So what's
Q says. All right. Revenue is price times quantity. That's a formula you should write down. It should also be common sense, but my sister always told me that as IQ goes up, CQ goes down. The more intelligence quotient you have, the less common sense quotient you have. What's that? Price increase has two effects on revenue. It's going to increase P and it's going to decrease Q. Law side tells us those are absolutes. So the question is, which impact is larger? And it depends upon price elasticity of demand. So the question is, how do we define the websites you're designing? Do they have a lot of close substitutes? Are they a luxury? All of those price elasticity of demand determinants. By the way, how many of you went home and memorized those last night?
I know.
You know them pretty much. What are they, Dayton? What are the price elasticity determinants of demand? The price elasticity of demand determinants. Is it a luxury or necessity? Andrew? No. Is it long-term or short-term? Are there close substitutes? Is it broadly or narrowly defined? And then you need to know which way it falls on all of those. Apparently I had a lot of spare time on my hands last year. Okay. Price elasticity of demand is the percentage change in quantity over the percentage change in price. We've seen this before. Now we have the revenue formula. Moving on. If demand is elastic, price elasticity of demand is greater than 1. If demand is inelastic, it is less than 1. So if the percentage change in quantity is greater than the percentage change in price, you're going to have a fall in revenue. Because math. If the quantity percentage change is bigger than the percentage change in price, revenue will fall. That should make sense mathematically. Wes, I know you sat at home eagerly waiting for this to post to YouTube so you could watch it yesterday. Did you appreciate that I cut out some of the big pauses while I'm waiting? Would have been an excellent opportunity to fib there, Wes, but I appreciate your honesty. Mark, I know you went home and watched it again just for the kicks. You couldn't find it.
I clicked on the link and it didn't come up at all.
Didn't come up on my YouTube channel?
I tried to watch it.
Uh-oh. Did you seriously?
It only had 3 videos.
Ooh.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Oh, I forgot to add it to the playlist. Could have.
Don't
You
you?
should have just gone to my channel. It would have been there, but I will get in there and add it to the playlist. That's pretty impressive, though, that you actually did this. Wow. Consider me impressed, which is a good thing to say to me the day of conferences. All right. So here is your demand curve. Hannah, you wanted to see your demand curve. Yeah. When I asked you if revenue was going to rise or fall, you said, I can't tell if I can't see the demand curve. And Davis backed you up. He wanted data. So here's your data. Is revenue going to go up or down? You don't need any numbers on this curve. This is a relatively flat curve, correct? It is not unit elastic. Unit elastic would be here. It's relatively flat, so it is more elastic. We know that because we've got this number here, correct? All right. If I change price a little bit, quantity is going to change more or less than the price. For sure. So is revenue going to go up or down? So if price is 200 and our quantity is 12, our revenue is 2,400. We've already figured this out. So if we increase the price to 250, our quantity goes down to 8 and revenue goes down to 2,000. So increasing your price would be a poor decision because people don't need your websites. Okay, well, darn. So much for that college fund. The amount you lost is here in this bigger box. The amount you gained is here in the yellow box. If you need it visually, the yellow box is smaller than the blue box. You lose. Okay. When demand is elastic, price increases cause a fall in revenue. That is always a truism. You can memorize it, but it's better to understand why. Do you follow? When demand is elastic, you should not raise prices. Your revenue will fall. Does this make sense? When prices or when demand is elastic, a price increase causes revenue to fall. Dayton wants to know, does that mean if you decrease prices, your revenue will go up?
Yeah.
Well, if we carry out this curve to its logical extension to the right, if we drop prices to 150, we can assume that our quantity will go up to 16. What's 150 times 16? Well, 15 times 2 is 30, times 8 would be 240. Your revenue would stay constant at 2,400. So you do way more work for the same revenue. So probably not a good plan. But you get your name out there. Okay. If demand is inelastic, price elasticity of demand is less than 1. And the fall in revenue from a change in quantity will be a greater percentage change than the percentage change in price, and revenue should go up. So let's suppose that instead of quantity going down to 8, quantity only goes down to 10 at our new price of 250. 250 times 10 is 2,500. We will make $100 more in revenue, and we will spend less time making websites because we'll have 2 fewer websites. Sounds like a win to me.
So the cardigan makes sense now.
I am embarrassed by myself. Why do you mean the cardigan makes sense now?
You look like a fairy.
Dude, remember when I said kiss up parent teacher conference week? That's not how you roll. You're gonna.
Okay, so look at our new elasticity. 0.82. So here's our original revenue. Here's our new revenue. Blue box is going to be lost revenue. Yellow box is going to be increased revenue. Yellow's bigger than blue. You win. The demand is inelastic. Increase in prices causes revenue to increase. Yes, ma'am.
For inelastic and elastic, how can you tell which one it is?
Greater than 1 or less than 1.
And how does it become that?
Because of the math, the percentage change in quantity divided by the percentage change in price, the midpoint method that we learned yesterday. Their chapter in your paperback review book on elasticity is pretty solid. Recommended if you are struggling at this point. You have a 4-day weekend coming up to get yourself solid on this.
That's that AP review thing, right?
Yeah, the orange and white and black.
I don't think everyone has one.
I thought I had enough of those.
I don't think I got one.
I
You
didn't.
never know if either.
I can post the text to that to the to Canvas as well. I'll post the text to that to Canvas as well. All right, practice time.
she has like 4 sodas and everything, so caffeine's not an issue.
Pharmacies raise the price of insulin 10%. Does revenue go up or down? Why? Why is insulin inelastic? Use the economic word. It's a necessity. Take a look at B. Stop the side convos. Take a look at B. Hayden says up. Hayden says total revenue rises. Now you were leaning back. You were up. And,
I was like this.
do you find it difficult to sit upright with the spine that weak?
Unbelievable.
Take a position, man. Take a position.
Fine, I'm going up.
Okay. Hayden says revenue goes up. What say the rest of you? Why? Elasticity will be greater than 1. This is definitely something that's price elastic. Why is it price elastic? It's a luxury. Although you may think you'll just die if you don't get to go on a cruise, you actually won't.
Well, what do you want to go on a cruise and the price was lower? The price of the cruise fought.
But remember when we did our math on what if instead of increasing prices to $250, we decreased them to $150?
But doesn't that mean
Revenue stayed the same and didn't go up. Just because you sell more, you're selling them at a lower price.
So wouldn't that mean the revenue stayed the same, didn't fall?
Depends on how inelastic or how elastic it is. The more elastic it is, it might go down.
So it could stay the same, right?
Oh, Hayden could be right. We'll see.
Hey, don't fool me yet, boys.
Hey,
I'm balling. I'm balling.
Here we go. Moment of truth. Oh, they didn't give us an answer. What are we gonna do?
Knock it up.
Who can guess?
So you see, you answer your C.
Let's go!
Oh my god.
Come on, turn around and tell me I'm wrong again.
Wrong.
I was right, that's right.
You had no idea.
The underdog wins again.
Wait, but if he had not been able to
That was
explain
pure
himself on a
luck.
test, would he have still gotten it wrong?
Yes.
I explained
He
it.
did
What are you
explain
talking
himself.
about?
You know, he was just clarifying that if you hadn't explained it, you would have been wrong.
Oh yeah, but I did explain it.
Yes, he did.
I guess it was right. Sorry,
Well
I
done,
was
Hayden.
wrong. I was right.
Okay. Now, this is a lifelong question. This is a question that our nation and our government struggle with. We tackle real problems in here. Does drug interdiction increase or decrease drug-related crime? What is drug interdiction? Let's define it.
When the government tries to decrease the supply of drugs.
Yeah, when they seize drugs, when they burn drug farms, when they break up drug labs. Yeah, they'll go and they'll plow under marijuana plots that they find in forests and stuff. And, yeah.
So like all the
I thought you
weed
meant, like,
that they
from
seize from like Mexico and they burn it.
What do you think they do on their Saturday nights?
I mean,
All right. So
the government should just tell it.
one impact of the drug trade, guys, is that people who are drug users tend to find it difficult to hold down a job, meaning they lack a regular income, and yet drugs cost money. And so they take to crimes of opportunity in order to get the money to buy the drugs to feed their habit. Because for them, remember, drugs are a necessity. Okay? So we're going to look at two different policies that governments use, local, state, and national. Okay? We're going to assume that the total value of the crime is equal to the total cost of the drugs. Okay?
What do you mean?
It's not really that way. That if I mug Dayton and get $20 from him, then I get $20 worth of drugs. That the mugging of him doesn't also incur medical expenses, which means it costs him more. Very, very often, the crimes are far more expensive than the money that's obtained from them. Okay. So, inelastic demand, we got that. All right. So, demand for drugs, definitely an inelastic curve, right? Pretty vertical. Supply looks pretty unit elastic, right? So the initial value of the drug-related crime is from equilibrium, right? There we go. Okay. So interdiction comes in. The police seize a couple of meth labs, bust them up, they arrest some dealers on the streets. Okay. So changing the number of suppliers. Okay. What's going to happen to supply? It's going to go to the left. It's going to decrease. What's going to happen to quantity? Equilibrium quantity. Equilibrium quantity is going to decrease when we draw a new supply curve in here, Q. What's going to happen to equilibrium price? It's going to increase. Okay? So the question is, what will be our impact? Because we're inelastic, price goes up more than quantity goes down. Here it's not revenue, it's cost, right? Is this new rectangle bigger than the old one? Interdiction actually increases the cost of drugs.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, it means
Legalize.
it means that no, because
Not
it's not
very-
elastic, meaning that they give
So-
you-
They sell it back to the.
You're saying, isn't it good that we made the drugs more expensive?
Like, isn't it then harder for people to buy them?
Except how were they buying them in the first place?
crimes, and they
For
have
crimes, so now they have to commit.
more crimes.
So do you want it to be really cheap?
I don't know, I'm not taking a position here, I'm showing you the economics. I'm showing you the economics, okay?
Yeah, you should just get that at a vending machine.
So, this entire square here was the initial value. We got some more police on the streets, we got some grants going on, we got some new intel. We took down some drug lords, and now here we have the value of drug-related crime. We did good. Look at the big pile of drugs seized on I-80 in the front page photo on the World Herald. We did good. How many people read that article and they're like, yeah! You would. You would have yesterday. You would have this morning. Okay? Let's go the other way. Let's not attack the dealers. Let's attack the potential future users. How many of you went through DARE? Well, drug education and resistance. Drug abuse, resistance education, drug and alcohol. Because alcohol is a gateway drug. All right. Okay. So we still have the same initial box here. Now we've decreased demand. You don't want any anymore. Look at our new equilibrium.
Price fall.
So instead of attacking drug people, we should attack children.
Change the demand, not the supply. Because if the demand goes down, the quantity supplied goes down.
If you mess with the supply, the demand's still there.
No.
So you're saying, why don't we tell
Fix
our
the addicts and prevent new addicts
Then you're taking
No, I do.
demand off.
and
I
work the
saw
problem.
files the other day.
Then supply.
Wouldn't arresting people also decrease demand?
Everyone's right behind me.
Oh, Davis says, wouldn't arresting people also decrease the demand because they won't want to get arrested? What happens to drug, let's say that, Dayton.
Yeah.
Because he's right here now,
No,
he's
it's
gonna be my example
take
boy.
Dayton on purpose.
He gets arrested, picking up a dime bag on the corner. A couple 8 balls.
How do you know these
yeah,
terms?
So he's out picking up a couple 8 balls, and he gets arrested. What happens to him?
I go to jail.
They call his mom.
Do you go to jail?
No.
Well, not at my age.
No, he gets tried. Well, he's 23.
Oh, okay.
He's 23. He got held back. He's 23.
We can
Well, I go to jail and then I make bail.
He goes to jail. He makes bail. What's he do next weekend?
I
So
go
he
to
gets
trial.
another dime bag.
Goes out and gets another dime bag. In the
Oh.
meantime, he's lost his job.
Yeah, because I got busted.
Okay. So he gets 3 convictions. Now he's going to go to jail. Does he get drug treatment in jail?
No.
Have any of you been following the articles in the World Herald and covered by some of the local news stations about the tremendous amount of illegal drugs they have found in our state correctional institutions recently? They actually just had a 5-day shutdown on visitations in all correctional institutions across the state, all state-run ones, because of the incredible number of illegal drugs they found in the institutions.
It's like how I'm like show and they get the
So
cleats.
arresting them doesn't fix it. You have to fix the want.
Yeah, you can watch Marshall do that. You can read anything.
All right, moving on. Price elasticity of supply. Elasticity type number 2. By the way, which let's go back to this drug thing. Which gets more funding? Drug education prevention programs or drug interdiction programs? By what magnitude? Over 10 times.
Is it because it looks better on the
That's
front
because
page of the
they're
news
dumb.
if you're collecting drugs than if you're educating 6th graders about marijuana? Oh my god, did you see my comment on Facebook? Josie's
Again, we need a generation of kamikaze representatives.
Yeah, why are you?
sharks.
I'll do it.
I'm not a politician because I wouldn't get elected. Because no one would vote for me. I would stand up and say, I'm going to cut your benefits and I'm going to charge you more in taxes.
I would vote for you because you know what you're doing.
Who would sit still to listen to me long enough? What I'm
Nobody.
explaining doesn't fit in 140 characters. It doesn't fit in a 15 or 30-second or a 60-second television ad.
And that's all that we.
And my opponent would be investing heavily in that stuff. I'm a radical.
You need to be a. What'd you call those? What'd you
So
call
this is my campaign. I am educating the future, making you smarter
You
voters.
should go for school board then or something.
I can't run for school board.
He works for the school.
She also doesn't have time.
All right. I do my public service through the planning commission. So. All right, moving on. Public
Wait, hey.
price elasticity. Yes, sir.
Are you part of the union?
The teachers union?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have that?
I just-
Do you have to be a part of that?
No, we're a right to work state.
What are the benefits? Does it not describe itself?
Legal representation should I get sued, primarily.
So you sue one, you sue them all?
Malpractice insurance, basically.
So if you're feeding children, they can't sue you individually?
Oh no, Dayton can still sue me if I rip his ear off.
Do it.
Do
Do
it.
it.
You won't. Bet. You won't.
No,
won't see you.
I won't.
He'd be
All
like,
right.
it's parent teacher conferences. Just do what you want.
Just like price elasticity of demand, price elasticity of supply measures how much quantity supply changes in reaction to a change in price. Okay? Look, it's a remarkably similar formula.
What's up, Ozzy?
Hey, Ozzy.
Oh, you don't get to use that word.
Do you know Will? Then you
No,
can't
shut up.
address him familiarly like that. You can't talk to him like that.
Wait, make him speak out loud. What?
Alright. How sensitive are sellers to changes in price? Just like how sensitive are consumers to changes in price. We're going to use the midpoint method since we already proved that it's the better method. If you've got the formula down, great. If not, go back and watch it on YouTube. It's the same thing. I just changed the word demand into supply. All right. So here we go. Price goes up by 8%. Quantity rises by 16%. Elasticity is 2. Is this elastic? Is it inelastic? Is it unit elastic? I don't know. Cause numbers.
Me.
Okay. Remember how we had a variety of demand curves? In fact, how many demand curves? The flatter the curve, the more elastic it is. The more vertical the curve, the less elastic it is. Okay? Oh, look at that! 5 classifications on this side too. What do you want to bet they're similar or exactly the same? Only leaning the other way. So let's start with perfectly inelastic. Remember the one that looks like a capital I. Elasticity is 0. Do Australians say Z for 0?
People say Z for Z.
Z. Do Australians say Z for Z?
That's why I called him Aussie.
Oh my god, it's actually Australian.
X, Y, Z.
No.
He's not.
He's
He's
Will.
I say Z.
He's from Australia, so I called him
Do you guys say the alphabet's on Australia?
No, he's just visiting the shenanigans.
You don't
These
think A, B,
things
C,
are-
D, E,
No,
F?
not really.
Can you shut up?
Oh.
But like that.
You know what? Like someone who makes fun of.
Oh.
Don't make fun of.
I'm sorry.
I'll probably.
There are so many amazing things about Australia, but I feel like you're missing out.
They might, but I don't know.
I feel like
It's
you're missing
in private school, like,
Are you even a
first
real
school,
Australian?
Like
Oh, did you
He's
really?
an imposter.
Yes, like that's how I know all that. So they might have.
Well, you're definitely
So
just
that's why
faking
you say
that
Z.
accent.
Got it. Okay.
No, he tried to do white girl.
Okay.
Pretty good. Oh wow.
Have a day. Hopefully I see some folks tonight. See you guys back here tomorrow. We'll continue supply.